talking about the NFL and really talking about the AFC and what's going to happen down the stretch as we've made it to the halfway part of the NFL season, talking about who's the biggest threat to the Titans moving down the stretch. We've got four teams we're going to discuss today in the AFC along with the Tennessee Titans. And then we'll talk about one dark horse team in the NFL that I think could make a push. And for me, when I said my team, my dark horse team to Zach this morning in our pre-show meeting, Zach gave out one of those, whoa, one of those type of like shocked laughs there, which is funny. So we'll discuss the four biggest threats to the Titans in the AFC, our dark horse team, and then Zach, it is Wednesday, so it means throwing shade. This morning, when we got on the phone, I didn't have any shade. Then I gained a shade. I almost had a second shade, but a late save by you fixed that second shade. But we're going to have a good show here on a Wednesday, and it's Veterans Day out there. So a lot of people off work today, so maybe out of your normal routines, but also thanks to all the veterans in our country for doing what you've done for us. Zach, welcome in. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, and I second those words. Thank you for everything that you guys have done for our country. Look, when you say things like that, it's more of a gleam in my eye. You know, it's like, oh, we don't have something. It's really like the Music City Miracle, like, oh, he's got something. He's got something. So let's discuss. Let's get into a little bit of arguments. It's not a bad thing. We got this. So, and to preface for everybody piling in, and they will over the next 5 to 10 minutes as we get this started, really think about your words today, okay? We're going to play the word game. And I am excited about this because I love talking about NFL football, and I love using words to describe things, right? English language. So before we get going, bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Twitter/Periscope, you'll see those three little dots. You can share the broadcast that way. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. How that works out is you guys retweet us. So retweet us, follow us. If you're watching the show and you don't follow A to Z Sports on Twitter, then something's wrong with you. But that's a you problem, not a us problem. Twitch, YouTube, you should also subscribe and follow there. And obviously Facebook. For all of our followers and our likes, please share the show. As I said, more people will pile in over the next several minutes as you guys do. Share around. We have a lot to discuss in today's show, but very excited about what's going on.
Yep, we're going to have a good show. Let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. You look our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville. We're Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it all happen for our show, for our business, and they help out you guys. Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free. The Tucker Agency, Nashville's independent insurance agency, giving you relief on your personal insurance at TuckerTN.com. Calvin and Subtle for your new hardwood floors and finishings. CalvinandSubtle.com as the holidays rapidly approach. Great gift idea. And the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. So, Zach, who's the threat? That was almost my shade, my second shade today, because Zach had the wrong who's up on the screen. So I didn't want to let you get away with that scot-free, but we got that fixed. Shade at the end of the show. You're welcome. You're welcome for that. But, Zach, we've got four teams in the AFC that we think could be a threat to the Titans when it comes into playoff positionings and really in the second half of the NFL season. I was reading ESPN.com and Teron Davenport's work earlier today, and he had first half of the season in 2 words for the Titans, defensive struggles. And he also had a final record prediction, and Teron has the Titans finishing 6-4, so doubling their 6-2 start. 12-4 for that Titans finish on the season. So we're going to talk about four teams that we think could be a big threat, but we know this, and we've been talking about this since May when the schedule came out, that Colts, Ravens, Colts, that's deciding the season, and that's what's happening now as it's gotten here with this 3-game stretch.
Yeah, and this will decide the season. We've waited a long, long time for this 3-game stretch. we've got it's a lot riding on it. Not only, for the Titans, their division hopes and their division crown, which they haven't won since 2008, but also if the Titans sweep the Colts 2 out of the next 3 weeks, they win those games against the Colts, then Austin, I will have to wear a dinosaur suit on the show. But if the Colts win one or both, it doesn't really matter.
At least one. Yeah.
At least one. Then Austin will have to wear a dinosaur suit. So this is like the big dino week over the next 3 weeks. But in all seriousness, this is very important. The Colts have gotten better because they have found a Band-Aid to patchwork the Andrew Luck leaving, right? It was not Jacoby Brissett, but they went out and got Phillip Rivers. And you know what? Phillip Rivers has played this year probably like we would expect. Really good at times and really bad at times. And that's usually what an aging quarterback does. We've seen that from Drew Brees this year. We've seen that from Tom Brady this year. And we've seen that from Phillip Rivers. Last week, they had a lead, and then all of a sudden it just disintegrates because defensively the Ravens were scoring, right? It wasn't the fact that Lamar Jackson was lighting it up, but this is a huge Thursday night game in prime time. You don't get a lot of good Thursday night games, but Thursday night in Nashville, this will set the tone for the next 3 weeks. We'll talk a lot about it tomorrow morning, and then obviously live at the Mainstay driven by Wilson County Hyundai for our pregame show, also a halftime and postgame show. But for Thursday night, this is the opportunity to show a lot of folks, the Bills-Titans was good, but to show a lot of folks what these two teams are.
Yeah, Dom says they can go 3-0. Colts and Ravens have flaws. That stretch is not particularly daunting. I think it is, especially just because of playing the Colts back-to-back. Even if the Titans, and you think the Titans are a much better team than the Colts, playing the same team 2 times in 3 weeks, it's very difficult to sweep both of those. Bobby says the Chiefs are probably the only team in the AFC that outclass everybody. The rest of the teams will be battling each other. And that's kind of what we're getting to, because the Colts are sitting on the outside looking in. We know as of right now, 7 AFC teams will make the playoffs, potentially 8 if the coronavirus has its way with the second half of the NFL season. But the Colts are sitting in 9th right now at 5-3, and then having 3 big games because the Colts, in between the 2 Titans games, have the Packers. Ronnie says the Colts are the biggest threat because they're in the division rivals. So we want to ask you guys this question specifically about the Indianapolis Colts. What is one word to describe the Indianapolis Colts? That's simple.
Now.
Yes, right now. What's one word to describe the Colts right now? And we're going to do this for the 4 teams we think can threaten the Titans in the AFC. But first, real quick, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There's so many different ways you can use Renters Warehouse during this pandemic. If you've lost your job or lost part of your income, they can help you and your family create extra cash flows to get some of that supplemental income back. If you want that mailbox money, which is great for long-term equity, renterswarehouse.com is where to go.
A to Z Sports. Also, if you're in the betting mood, we've hooked you up with a promo code for MyBookie, mybookie.ag, code MyTitans. It doubles your first deposit. You put in $100, you actually get $200 to play with. We've partnered with them this season. That's mybookie.ag, promo code Titans. Austin, a lot of good words. This is why I love this game. And we do this a lot for the Titans and like games and stuff. But now doing it for other teams, I think has a different meaning. So let's go through some words to describe the Indianapolis Colts right now. Solo Dolo 271, he's coming in and says depleted. Steven says challenging. Gritty from Jacoby. Anthony says lucky. Questionable from John. Andrew says desperate. Kane says trash. LeVar says solid. Danny says unpredictable. Jason says irritating. I think that's a really good word from Jason. Thorn.
Yeah.
Right there.
That word thorn is interesting because that's spoken from a Titans fan perspective, that the Colts are a thorn to the Titans. So that's more about what this rivalry has been, Colts versus Titans over the years, because the Colts have had the Titans number more often than not.
and Tim Coyle comes in obstacle. I think that's also a very good word. I knew this is why I knew I was going to love this show is because you're going to get a lot of different views on what they mean, but very vulnerable. See, and I also think Nick's right? Because I do think that there's some vulnerability there. Overrated from Pauly D, right? More from a fan's perspective. So Kyle says old and Orlando says odd.
Yeah.
Good words.
All right. So you want me to go with my word?
Yes.
Limbo. I think the Colts are in limbo. The games, their schedule coming up is either going to go one direction, which is good, or completely the opposite direction, which is bad. Right now, they're not in the playoff picture. They needed that win over the Ravens, and they absolutely have to have this win over the Titans. And the next 3 games, the Colts are at Titans, then Packers and Titans at home. They do have 2 games against the Texans and 1 against the Jags. So there's 3 games you can feel really good about. But then you've got at Raiders and at Steelers. So you've got 5 of your last 8 games against really good teams, and 3 of them are on the road. Especially when you're talking about at Raiders, at Steelers. I think the Raiders are going to be playing for a lot in those games. You know, the Titans and Colts are going to be playing for a lot. And the Packers, I think, are going to – they play the Packers next week, which is still early enough for the Packers to take that seriously. So my word for the Colts is limbo. They can either be a wild card team or maybe even win the AFC South or miss the playoffs entirely, and it's really going to be determined in the next 4 weeks.
Well, is limbo's a negative connotation though, right? So how can they win, right?
Limbo means they're teetering on one way or the other. That's what I'm saying. They're in limbo. That they can come out of it, they can succeed, or they can fall on their backs.
Okay. I understand that. All right. So I think outside the box. Okay. That's kind of my way of thinking. And with all of these words, I've taken a different approach. Austin, where did you say the Colts are right now in the AFC?
Ninth,
right?
Outside looking in, yeah.
Right. So, and to go along kind of with your word, they're in limbo. I don't disagree, right? They could go either way. So I've got some visuals to go along with mine.
Yeah.
My first word to describe the Colts is ghillie, as in ghillie suit. I think that they could be that sniper on the hill that you don't see that comes in and absolutely takes the division out of nowhere, sweeps the Titans. Titans are working behind the 8 ball. Their percentage chances just completely switch, all of that. Or you could be stumbling. You could be a Titans, and it goes to Veterans Day, searching for the enemy. You pop up, you see them, pop, back of the head, right? Dead. They didn't have a chance because of their schedule, because of the hardships, because of the ups and downs of Phillip Rivers, because of the injuries that they've had. So my word is Ghillie, ghillie.
Jabu says you're out here camping. Andrew says the Colts defense will keep them in if they played good last week. Sean's making fun of me. He says Austin just used a fancy word for being on the fence. That's not well, that's funny.
John!
But that's not like what but that's what the Colts are. The Colts are either going to win the AFC South or miss the playoffs entirely. And that's the situation they're in because of the schedule they have in the second half of the season. I could see the Colts finishing 8-8 or 9-7 like that, and being out on the outside. So that's why the Colts are in limbo, because if they beat the Titans tomorrow night, things completely change. If they lose the Titans tomorrow night, they are really struggling.
Sean, you got the love of the show right there. I didn't want to go all in on the first word like that, but that's why we've got great support. We've got great support from our A to Z Sports viewers that hold everybody accountable. That was like you saying a 5 out of 10.
No, it's not. No, it is not. That is a good descriptive word of the Colts situation. You agreed with me.
Well, because limbo has, again, a negative connotation that it's Like when things are in limbo,
Yeah.
that's not good.
I know. I think the Colts are in limbo.
So that's not good.
Right. I know, because I think they're more likely to miss the playoffs than they are to win the AFC South, which the odds show that. But
Solo Dolo 271's coming in good. 5 out of 10 right there.
Yeah, Lucas says Zach agrees with Austin. Yes. And then Hunter, thank you, says limbo means unknown, and unknown isn't good. Right. They are. I agree. I don't know why you're like coming at me for my word. Limbo is a good word for the for the Colts. I was reading a comment. Limbo is a good word.
I disagree. So look, we've got.
You agreed with me earlier, Zach. You can't. You're changing your mind. You're flip flopping now.
Well, no, because you're the epitome of flip flopper. Okay, be quiet. The reason why we have the term flip flopper is because of you, and the reason why we don't do 5 is because of you as well. So don't sit there. Limbo is that. That's why I questioned you and had you explain it. I'm
describing, Zach. I'm describing the Colts situation. That right now they have a tough schedule. Whether they're going to either win the AFC South or miss the
future.
Playoff.
What are they right now?
Right now, that's what I'm talking about. Right now, they're sitting in limbo. They lost to the Ravens. Their offense does not look good. Their defense is keeping them afloat. Phillip Rivers is either great or he's awful. Sometimes both in the same game, because he'll throw a bad interception or Jonathan Taylor's fumbling from his days in Wisconsin. That's what the Colts are. They look good some days. Other days they look bad. They are in limbo.
Bad.
Huh?
Which is bad.
Yeah. Yes. I think the Colts are in limbo.
So let's move on to our next team. We've done the Colts. Now, after the Titans play Colts, Ravens, Colts. So after the Colts, let's go to the Ravens, because the Ravens, this is not the 2019 Ravens. This is not MVP Lamar Jackson's Ravens. And I think everybody thought that they would kind of come down closer to the mean than they were. I mean, 14-2 and playing absolute lights out last year. We obviously know how that ended. But what's one word to describe the Ravens right now? And that's what we want you to comment on Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, and also on Twitch.
Let's see. Inconsistent is coming in from Jason. Overrated from Jesse to talk about the Ravens. Solo Dolo says weird. And Danny, I'm just going to pick Danny's word out of that sentence. Beatable. When it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. Inconsistent, not a threat in all one word. Danger says Bobby. Let's see. Scary says Brock. Dom says finicky. Jeffrey says trouble. Intriguing coming in from Louis. Tennessee Davis says frauds. Steven says sneaky. Scoop says confused. Travis with disappointing. Another Lamar, another trash from Kane. Kane just going trash with all of them. Revengeful Ravens coming in from Monsoon, and Max with a predictable. A lot of comments flying in. It makes me click on the wrong ones. So, Zach, what is your one word for the Baltimore Ravens right now?
Again, outside the box thinking, I'm going a little bit different. My word is proofless, okay? Because in the court of law, you can't handle the truth. You need the proof to show who you are. And every time that they've had that opportunity, whether it was against the Steelers this year or whether it was against the Chiefs on Monday night in week 3, they didn't show the proof that they are worthy to being a true blue Super Bowl contender. I think we've had a lot of good words, but they're proofless. They haven't. And they have some more opportunities, right? They still have to play the Steelers. That's still on the docket. They still got to play the Browns, who is, I think, you talk about question marks. I think the Browns, nobody really knows who they are. But they also have to play the Titans in 2 weeks. And that is another great example of how they can prove themselves, that here's the proof that we belong in the same conversation as the Kansas City Chiefs. So far, they've been proofless.
Interesting. I like that word. My word for the Ravens is surviving. They're not really taking much of a step forward in what they did last year, but they're surviving. They're hanging on. The Steelers are undefeated and winning that division. I feel like the Ravens are going to make the playoffs. They will survive the second half of the season and make the playoffs, partly because they've got games against these teams. the Patriots, the Cowboys, the Jags, the Giants, and the Bengals. Like that's like they're 6-2 right now. That's 5 wins. Like they're going to win 11 plus games. So I think surviving for the Ravens, are they going to be a legitimate threat to win multiple games and go on a run in the playoffs as a wild card team potentially? I don't know, but they're going to survive to win 11 plus games and get in the playoffs, most likely as that 5th team, the number 1 wild card team in the AFC. So my word for the Ravens is surviving because, man, Cowboys, you've got the Patriots, the Jags, the Giants, and the Bengals. That looks nice. That looks real nice.
Yeah, but because they lost to the Steelers, that was big.
Right, and they've got them again, too. So I definitely think surviving is my word for the Baltimore Ravens.
I knew somebody was going to do this.
Yeah.
Because proofless, I knew somebody was not going to think that was a word. Because you don't use it. You usually use it in like lawyer speak. And Rick, you came in. Zach up here making up words. It is a word. I double checked it. It just doesn't sound like a word.
Usually Rick isn't wrong, but this says it's Trivia Tuesday.
Rick is wrong.
Yeah, Rick.
I was looking for it.
Look, and Rick says nope. Maybe Rick says he's not. I don't know. I'm not the one who looked it up. But all right, Zach, let's move on. We've talked about 2 teams who are a threat to the Titans in the AFC down the stretch. Let's talk about the Titans right now. What's one word to describe the Tennessee Titans right now at 6-2? First, Zach, tell the people about the Tucker Agency.
Yeah, TuckerTN.com. That's where you need to go. Nashville's independent insurance agency. Will at TuckerTN.com. His team, Will Tucker, will help you out, and he'll actually give you money back because you're probably paying too much. This is something you need to diagnose going into 2021. It's a new year. Have a little bit more awareness of what you have within your insurance and your policy. Life insurance, homeowners insurance, renter's insurance. All of those are under an umbrella, but you're probably paying too much. Email Will at TuckerTN.com. That's Will at TuckerTN.com. And his team will take care of you. The average customer saves 20% when they email them. Will at TuckerTN.com. His team will take care of you.
All right, everybody, what is one word to describe the Tennessee Titans right now? A lot of comments are rolling in, so let's make sure I can read a lot of these here on a Wednesday. Ronnie says inconsistent. Jared with a mediocre. Titans for Life says unknown. Louis says Warriors. Jeffrey says tough. Tighten Up Ohio on YouTube saying uncertain. Marquis says fortunate. Travis with another inconsistent. L Train with suspect. Jordan with lackluster. On offense, on less offense, I'm not sure why offense is in parentheses there. Steve says unsure. Tom says confounding. Brent says bipolar. Mark Beach.
I like that one. I like bipolar so far of all the ones that it's not my word, but yeah, Brent, that's pretty good.
Kyle with underwhelming. Luis saying now it just flew away from me because of comments. Incomplete coming in from Ethan. What you got? What'd you snap your fingers for?
Well, because that bipolar is such a good word, and so my word I would have taken again outside the box. I would have taken it a little further, and I would have said Irene, me, myself, and Irene, because it's split personalities. You're absolutely correct. One night on a Tuesday night, they'll drum the 6-2 Bills. Right? They're doing unbelievable. But then the next day, they go wire to wire with the Vikings or the Jags. They let them come back involved, or the Texans, who's not a very good team. They forced to go to overtime, or they lose to the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's a very good word from Brent. That's why I enjoyed going through these.
So far, nobody has guessed either of our words for the first 2 teams, the Colts and the Ravens. Now with the Titans, our guy Darius, who's been watching the show for a long time, got my word. Opportunistic. I think the Titans have been an opportunistic team and have the opportunity to continue to be opportunistic because of the what's ahead of them with the Titans is the Colts, Ravens, Colts. You're getting both of these teams at pretty good times. Like, it's not like the worst time in the world to play the Colts, who are kind of wishy-washy and struggling a little bit. Not the worst time to play the Baltimore Ravens, who are pretty banged up right now. And so I think opportunistic, you look at the defense in general, they've been giving up a ton of yards and a lot of points, but they've been racking up those turnovers, a very opportunistic defense. And even if they give up 30 points in a game to like the Jags, the Vikings, they make the big plays when the game-winning opportunity presents itself. Opportunistic is my word for the Tennessee Titans, and they cannot waste it at the end in the second half of 2020 because they got to win the AFC South. They absolutely have to go out there and take that.
Yeah, you bring up the points of the timing, and I'm with you on that. The Colts have accrued some injuries early on in the season, and they're not playing real well right now, right? They're coming off of a loss. Titans coming off of a win. The Ravens, offensively, they're not burning it to the ground. They have Lamar Jackson, but he has not played and thrown the football like he did last season any sort of way. And Calais Campbell, their best defensive player, has a calf injury that's going to be haggling him for a couple of weeks. Could include the Titans game. So this is a great opportunity. So my word, again, a little bit deeper, and I don't think a lot of people are going to like it, but don't look too into the ending of this word because I do think they could rewrite the story. My word is Titanic because they have built this ship, right? If you know anything about the Titanic, it was the biggest and best thing. What did John Robinson do all offseason? He went and got steel. He got all of the material to build this ship, to build this glorious Mecca, to just roll through the ocean. And I think that's Derrick Henry. I think that's A.J. Brown. I think that's Ryan Tannehill, Jadeveon Clowney. They went out and traded for Desmond King. Along the way, they're stoking the fire. They're throwing more coals on this bad boy. A head of steam for the next 3 games and the rest of the season. They have to avoid the iceberg. They have to, because that iceberg over the next 3 weeks, if the Colts win both of those games, Austin, they're not going to win the division. And this glorious ship that, as you said, they have to win this division, they won't if they lose to the Colts twice. So that is the iceberg. My word is Titanic.
All right, so I shut my mouth through the entire thing because I wanted to let you go with where you're taking it. Assad says, great movie, The Titanic. Fun fact, Austin Stanley has never seen the movie Titanic. Steven says, biggest and best until it sank. Danny's giving you love for the pictures that's going along with it. Louis says, we ain't going to sink. Bobby is kind of going where I was going to go. So you're saying the edge and the secondary is the iceberg. So you got some you can dig it from there. Now, my thought was the Titanic, they were arrogant enough to think that they could get through and not sink. They thought they were unsinkable. I don't think John Robinson is that arrogant. I don't think Mike Vrabel is that arrogant because if Bobby's throwing out here about the secondary and the edge, or specifically Jonathan Joseph and Vic Beasley being the iceberg, they're not arrogant enough to ignore that. They fixed it, or at least attempted to fix it. So I think your point is well made. The Titans can maybe, steer clear of that iceberg and be able to continue rolling through the ocean.
They're the biggest and best thing in the AFC South. They are better than the Colts, and they are better than the Texans and the Jags. We know that. So there's no reason why they can't make it to dock across the big blue sea, but they got to steer clear. And over the next couple of weeks, they're going to go into some rough waters.
Yeah, so Alex on YouTube says, Vrabel is arrogant, LOL. Yeah, but he's not that arrogant to, just ignore the problems. They've obviously fixed the Vic Beasley and the Jonathan Joseph issues by getting rid of them. So I think your word makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I put time and effort. Look, you got to go 100%. I don't half-ass anything I do. Never have, never will. So I got to put some thought into this.
Yeah. And Joe with a great question. Did they get Adoree back on the boat yet?
That good question. He may be he may be one of those dinghies in the back, kind of climbing up the ladder, jumping on ship. Who knows?
Right. Now, so for the Adoree Jackson question, today is the deadline. Yeah, Rick says ask Buck. Buck has been asked several times. It's a funny day for Buck. Today is the deadline to move Adoree Jackson from designated to return from IR to the active roster. My prediction, they will put Adoree Jackson on the active 53-man roster by the end of today, end of business today. Because if they don't, they lose him for the rest of the season. Just because he's moved to the active roster doesn't mean he has to play. He can still be out for Thursday. He can still miss the Ravens game after 10 days. I don't expect Adoree Jackson to play tomorrow night, but I do expect him to be on the 53-man roster by the end of today.
I would agree with that.
It would be ridiculous to not do that.
He's missed too many weeks. Like the man has missed half a season after getting injured right before the season. Like really, like a week before, he's missed half the year.
And I was talking.
I always think about that. I'm not sitting here saying that Adoree's going to come back and play like he's played like last season.
No, there's some rust. There's going to be rust, absolutely. And I was talking about this with Buck off air yesterday. That like good thing for Adoree Jackson personally that the Titans picked up that 5th-year option. Because could you imagine if this was his contract year and he has been out and at the end of
he would find another job.
Yeah, but he's going to lose a lot of money by not being able to play in a contract year. That's my point is that could have been catastrophic for Adoree in losing millions and millions of dollars on a second contract if he didn't have his 5th-year option picked up for next year.
Before we move on to our next team, which I can't wait to talk about, Jacob has a great comment. The house banned from Tootsie's. So you've never seen the movie The Titanic, but
I know what happened in the Titanic because it's a real
playing the violin. Do you know that?
Yes,
right?
yeah.
They're playing the music. The house band from Tootsie's. That's a great reference.
Because somebody asked who's playing the music as it goes down, and so Jacob responding with that. That's pretty fantastic. A to Z Sports here live on a Wednesday. We still have Zach, my dark horse NFL team that made Zach laugh this morning. But the two other AFC teams that we want to talk about coming up now, the Miami Dolphins. What's one word for the Miami Dolphins here on this show? But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room because of full body electronic muscle stimulation. I worked out on Monday. It's Wednesday morning. I am still incredibly sore. Mandu.com. The workout is real. The science is real, and the results are real as well. I've lost over 20 pounds of fat, and I've gained 8 pounds of muscle, completely transformed my body and how I feel. Mandu.com. Give it a try. If you're in town, they got 3 locations in Nashville, and they're building out countrywide. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free.
Don't forget, double your first deposit at MyBookie, code MyTitans, mybookie.ag. That promo code is right for our Titans fans and for our listeners all season long. That's mybookie.ag.
All right, Zach, one word to describe the Miami Dolphins, and you got to give credit to you. It's been a couple weeks where you said the Miami Dolphins were a team that you were going to watch to do some damage in the second half of the season, and so far, you're not wrong.
Yeah, and I've had this feeling for a while, and I'll go ahead. I want to read some comments because we've had a lot of good words. And to kind of go back, the reason why I jumped on the Dolphins train was, what is in it for me? Just like everybody, what is in it for me? Well, I have a Tua Tagovailoa Elite Series rookie card right before he started. So that kind of pushed me to say, hey, let's pay attention to the Dolphins. Leading up to that, they were playing good defense. Fitzpatrick wasn't playing bad. They were 3-3. And you got to have the rocks to make the playoffs in the National Football League. And Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins, they dropped because they said, you know what? We're going to put Fitzpatrick on the pine, and we're going to roll and figure out what we have. That's mad respect. That takes cojones. So let's read some words. What's one word to describe the Dolphins right now? Defense from Tavares. And they've scored a lot of points on defense. Head scratching by BMO. Exciting from Army vet 109-604. Ryan says lucky, resurgent from Tighten Up, Ohio. Unsure. Jordan says sneaky, alive. Brent's calling them pretenders, which
there's a couple people that are on that side of things with Brent. Yeah.
Nate says snowflake, which
Nate's
is very
right.
good.
Yeah.
Emerging. Joe just says Tua, as does Sheila and John. Smart from Sawyer. Overrated from Sean. Ascending right there, coming in on Periscope. Austin, what is your one word to describe the Miami Dolphins right now?
I go with surging. Surging is what immediately comes to mind with the Miami Dolphins. They've won 4 straight. They won 2 with Fitzmagic. They've won 2 with Tua. One where Tua did not play well. Everybody else did for the Dolphins. And then one where Tua played pretty well. And again, I've looked at the schedules for all of these teams. And the Dolphins, I think, have a chance to surge their way to win 8 straight games. Like, they've already won 4. They're halfway there. The next 4, Chargers, Broncos, Jets, Bengals. The way the Dolphins are playing, watch out. They could be a 10-plus win team and right there behind the Ravens as that 6th team in the AFC, the second wildcard team. I think the Dolphins are making the playoffs. Like, I feel that strongly about what the Dolphins can do because the schedule's there. Tua is going to continue to get better. I like the Dolphins a lot. And you were ahead of this, maybe just because you're Tua rookie card, but you were ahead of this. But they did a lot of work in the offseason. They ended up winning 5 games last year, and they tanked for Tua, but ended up doing okay with it because of all the free agents and the rest of the draft they had. The Dolphins flipped that roster in 1 year, and the Texans sucked this year, and the Dolphins got their first and their second round pick coming up in April too. So the Dolphins are about to be here to stay for an AFC East contender for the next several years, right there with the Bills as the Patriots are still rebuilding. So surging Dolphins with a chance to win 8 in a row.
I like it. I used to like the drink Surge when that came in, chugging Surge, getting, cracked out as a kid. The other thing to look at, you mentioned their schedule. That Dolphins-Bills game, Week 17, could get flexed into Sunday Night Football. And wouldn't that be something?
Who would have thought?
Not me.
Dolphins-Bills had a lot riding on it besides a top pick.
So I like the theme of all of the words that I read. I like your word.
Real quick, they also have the Patriots too, but that's not in the next 4 games. The next 4 games are very winnable. They've got to beat the Patriots later on. That gets them to 10 wins all of a sudden.
Yeah, and they got to play the Chiefs late in the season too.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
But I really like the Dolphins. I think that they've kind of come out of nowhere, but it was because of the moves they made, not only the offseason, but also obviously midseason. So my word is flipper. It's flipper. That's what it is. It's flipper. They flipped their season. Just like the Dolphins that they are. Feed me that fresh fish because it is unbelievable to go with a quarterback when you're 3-3, right? And Fitzpatrick hadn't done anything wrong, but they looked forward and they said, look, we have a real opportunity. If our young QB hits, not only is that going to – Miami's a hot town. I want to live in Miami, right? If you're a millionaire, you want to live in Miami? Hell yeah, you do. Maybe not.
Yeah, but then are you going to Dolphins games in Miami because you got other stuff to do?
May not go to Dolphins games, but I'm talking about free agents. If they come, like the Patriots, lucrative, they get players. They've been a well-oiled machine, but Tom Brady's gone, and they've done something else. You don't want to go to Buffalo. You want to go to Miami. And if Tua gives them, and the other thing, this is all playing for April. The draft, they got picks. Picks on picks on picks on picks. I'm telling you, the Houston Texans pick? No. The Houston Texans aren't picking. The Miami Dolphins are picking. So I am all in on the Miami Dolphins. I like Tua. They slowly, or actually quickly, become a team I root for in the AFC. And I was thinking about this. I used to like the Chargers because I like Phillip Rivers and the uniforms, and I keep an eye on the Chargers. But I think my AFC, like I love the NFL, as you know, Austin. My AFC look, I'm kind of looking teal over here with Tua.
All right,
So my word, flipper.
You mentioned you like Surge and you used to drink that. I feel like you've been drinking that this morning.
No,
Ryan says never do that noise again. Jason and Kenneth and Chuck, what the hell was that? What the heck was that? Let's see. Tress says save that soundbite.
You can't handle the heat.
L Train says that dolphin impersonation was terrible. Ethan's ears are bleeding. Tori's just asking why. Danny says you sound like a turkey. Nate says laughing. Andrew says, what the hell? Never do that again. Dom saying, stop with yo dolphin noise. Oh man.
You can't handle the truth.
Jose thinks you're on fire.
You can't handle the truth.
Fishy. Dom says Zach is animated today. I think you've got those espresso beans that you're chewing on in there again.
Hey, I'm routine, baby. I do the same thing every day. When I need juice, I have juice. This is just regular juice.
Well, whatever it is, it's weird.
I'll tell you why. I love talking about the damn NFL. That's why. You know why, Austin? I'll give you a reason why. I had to talk about the damn Tennessee Volunteers blowing yesterday. That kind of ticked me off. I don't want to talk about that trash. I want to talk about the National Football League that everybody knows and loves, and that's why I'm juiced.
All right, so let's get to our fourth and final AFC team to talk about. Then we've got the dark horse, the Las Vegas Raiders. Zach, what is your one word to describe the Vegas Raiders right now, who are also 5-3? Also the only team to beat the Chiefs this year.
Right. Well, you got to go Vegas themed. My word, and make sure you comment in the comment section. My word is dice. I am not entirely sure about the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they could be good, but at the same time, they have not shown me consistently that they are. John Gruden has good experience, but can Derek Carr lead them to the promised land? They have better players than they did a couple of years ago. They've restructured since the Khalil Mack trade. But my word's dice because I think it's the roll of the dice. It could come up 7 and crap out. Nah, you're out of here. You're not going to make the playoffs because another emerging team. Or you could keep rolling and they could get on a run late in the season because they're going to play the Chargers. They just beat the Chargers in those sick uniforms. Then you've got the Broncos. They have their problems. Drew Luck can't play in the first half. And they've already beaten the Chiefs. So, they're weird. And so that's why they're the roll of the die.
Interesting. So, Jared, with 2 words, says false advertising. You could just said false. Marquis says fraudulent. Bluffing from Hunter, overrated from Ronnie, meh from Jordan, surprising from Danny, unknown from Chris, grinders from Orlando, roulette from Bobby, Chucky from Sheila John. Let's see, black hole coming from Lucas, curse from Jabu, gamble from BMO. I think I'm saying playoffs. That's my one word. They're in the playoffs. The Raiders are going to make the playoffs because their schedule sets up for that. The schedule is this easy for the Raiders. They got 2 versus the Broncos. They're going to win those games because the Broncos aren't playing for anything. They've got the Chargers again, the Falcons, and the Jets. They've got 3 toss-ups against the Chiefs, the Dolphins, who we just talked about, and the Colts as well. All they got to do is win the games they're supposed to win, and they're sitting there at 10-6 at minimum. If they're 10-6, they're making the playoffs. Brian says they won't make the playoffs. The Raiders will make the playoffs because they have the schedule to set them up for that. And because there's 7 teams in the AFC making the playoffs, 10 wins get you in.
So you bring up a good point. Schedules are very important. They're not as important before the year because you don't know who's going to be good, right? You don't know. But mid-year, and this is the mid-season mark, schedules are very important because you now know, the 49ers, you thought they'd be a lot better than they were, but they had a lot of injuries, right? So in where they are now, if you look at it, honestly, the AFC South is looking to be in trouble because as we figured out, Austin, the Dolphins and the Raiders, which are two wild card teams right now, have easy schedules. You know who have tough schedules? The Browns, the Titans, and the Colts.
Well, don't forget the Ravens too, because of what the Steelers are doing. The Ravens, like those are your three wild card teams.
So, like, I'm not saying I think the Titans will make the playoffs, but they can't they can't lose three straight.
No. The Titans are in jeopardy of
falling out.
That's
why my word was Titanic, is because if they cannot have a Titanic ship sink, I mean, they can't.
So that's the AFC North is getting two teams in. Easy. Right?
I would say yes because of the Ravens and the Steelers.
I think the AFC East is getting two teams in with the Bills and the Dolphins. I think both of those teams are making the playoffs.
If the Dolphins continue to play like they have been, yes.
Right, and how their schedule is setting up where
that's why I don't know if the Raiders, like you mentioned their schedule, I could easily see the Raiders splitting with the Broncos in a weird way and losing to the Chargers, right? So, like, I don't have the confidence that the Raiders will win the games they're supposed to win. And that's the definition of a good team.
But I think the Raiders will. I think the Raiders' defense is good. Derek Carr's playing better. Darren Waller's good. Josh Jacobs is good. They've got John Gruden's got his system set up. And I think the schedule just shows me 10-6 at worst.
Yeah, I don't think that they will be. I think they'll be 9-7. But two things. Trez says this game tomorrow is massive. I agree with that because you have to win at home because the next two are on the road, right? At Baltimore, at Indy. You cannot, and I'm not usually the pessimist. I'm a realist, but you don't want to blink your eye and wake up and you're 6-5.
Yeah. Well, and Brian says the Colts are also in the playoffs. I think the North is getting two teams in. I think the East is getting two teams in. And I think the West is likely as well. The AFC South might just be one team.
And so the Titans may not be in that.
Yeah, and they could easily depend on the next four games because the Browns are no pushover, right? The Browns are not like the Ravens or the Colts, but they're no pushover. The Titans got Colts, Ravens, Colts, Browns. That's a big stretch for the Tennessee Titans to either sink or swim.
And Dom brings up the example, 2017 Titans, Titanic shipwreck. 8-4, ended up 9-7, got lucky in the playoff game, beat the Chiefs that year. That's a good note. And then just for uniform sake, Rob says, what's the uniform combo? They were wearing all navy blue on Thursday night.
Now, the best thing about the Titans is they also have the Jags again. They've got the Texans again. They've got the Lions who are bad. And so that's three, right? You got to – and plus you're playing the Texans late in Week 17 where they're not playing for anything. The Titans will be playing – Week 17 will be important for every playoff team because seeding will be so important. So the Titans are going to get to 9-7, I think, easily. It's just, can they get to 11-5? That's the difference between winning the division and trying to survive in the wild card.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, A to Z Sports. Zach, I've got a dark horse team in the NFL. We've been talking all AFC today. I think there's a team in the NFC that has an opportunity to make a real run at things because they've got a dude who's on fire. But first, tell the people about Calvin and Subtle.
Yeah, Calvin and Subtle is where you need to get your hardwood floors. You talk about this holiday season. Don't get the traditional gift. 615-448-6414. Our guys at Calvin and Subtle will hook you up with the best premier hardwood floors for your household. Okay? If your wife has been talking about let's renovate, you're probably not going to sell because of where you are. You may not want to make those moves. You've been stuck in your house for 2020. Upgrade your house and make it feel different because we all want 2021 to feel different. How that happens is you look around and you change your surroundings a little bit. Rip up that old moldy carpet. Replace it with good hardwood floors. Once you pick out your sample, it's very, very simple. 1 or 2 weeks, all of a sudden, they've ordered the material and installed. You blink and you're like, wow, we got brand new hardwood floors. It didn't cost that much. It was really quick and efficient. 615-448-6414 or online at calvinandsubtle.com.
A to Z Sports. Don't forget mybookie.ag, code MyTitans to double your first deposit. Take advantage of that this football season. Double your first deposit, code MyTitans at mybookie.ag. So we're going to ask you guys, who is your dark horse team in the NFL? Because I've got one. And Zach laughed at it when I mentioned it earlier this morning on our phone call before the show. And I look at the NFC playoff standings. And obviously the Saints, the Seahawks, the Packers, and the Bucks, I feel confident as being the top class of the NFC. One of those teams will be a wild card in the
Bucks
NFC.
Keep playing like they have been.
Well, yeah, but one of those teams will be a wild card because of the NFC South. Then you look at the other teams. I think the Niners at 4-5 and the Chicago Bears at 5-4 are on the way down. They are the 8th and 9th team in the AFC. The Rams and Cardinals are right there in the thick of things and are pretty good teams, but they play in a very tough division, and they will start to beat each other up. Then you look at the 10th team in the NFC. They've won 2 in a row, and they look really good doing it, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. They're 3-5. Dalvin Cook is back, and Dalvin Cook is damn good.
He's back.
He is back, and he is tearing through defenses. He is scoring touchdowns. He is putting up numbers. And they've got at the Bears this upcoming week. They got to win that game. If they win that game, they're 5-4, and they've ripped off 3 straight divisional wins. And they got the Cowboys, Zach, and we know how the Cowboys are trending. All of a sudden, the Vikings at 5-5, and they've won 4 games in a row after that 1-5 start. The Panthers in Minnesota, winnable game. The Jags in Minnesota, winnable game. Then they got the Bears again and the Lions. The 2 tough games they've got at Tampa, at New Orleans. Obviously, those are tough. The Vikings are not just going to rip off and not lose again. But I think the Vikings, the way the NFC is playing out with the Bears and the Niners dropping, the Vikings getting healthier and surging, and then what's going on in the NFC West that they will start to beat up. I think that the Vikings are a dark horse team. I'm not predicting them to make the playoffs, but they're going to go on a run, and they're currently doing it.
Well, they have a better opportunity than the Cardinals or Rams because that's who they have to unseed. It's one of those 2 teams. Let's make no ifs or bones about it.
Just one of them. Just one. All they need is one.
And the one thing they have, as you said, they've already played their hardest divisional opponent twice. They beat them once. The Packers.
They split the Packers. That's huge.
Right? And so they have an easier schedule down the stretch. I question the consistency of Kirk Cousins, though, because he'll throw 3 touchdowns one game, and then he'll throw – but Dalvin Cook, I think, is the outlier, right? He's the X factor. And
the defense
is starting teams, he's the best player. Like, out of the Vikings, Rams, and – well, Aaron Donald is the best player, but out of the Vikings, the Rams, and the Cardinals, the guy who makes the biggest impact on the win and loss column is Dalvin Cook. It's nobody else. It's not Kyler Murray, and it's not DeAndre Hopkins, and it's not Jared Goff or Cooper Kupp. It's Dalvin Cook. So, and I do think Adam Thielen's good. The emergence of Jefferson. I don't know if it will happen because of Kirk Cousins.
Sure, Kirk Cousins is the obstacle. But the Vikings,
I would rather have Goff and Murray over Cousins.
I don't doubt that. But again, it's not necessarily about that. It's about, can Kirk Cousins survive against the schedule the Vikings have coming up? And I think that's not too daunting. Like the Panthers are not scary. The Cowboys have one of the worst, if not the worst defense in the world right now. If they get past the Bears this Sunday, which I think they can, that can start the ball rolling, where now the Vikings have a lot of momentum and confidence in themselves to really step through and win a handful of games and maybe get to 9-7. And all they got to do is the Bears continue to drop because they're so bad on offense. And then you've got the Niners who are just way too banged up to survive. And then the 2 teams, they just need one. Whether it's the Rams or the Cardinals, one of those teams drop off, the Vikings can be right there to jump right in.
Rob asks, would you lay money on the Vikings?
Making the playoffs?
Yeah.
If I could find, I would put some down because the odds are going to be probably really in my favor.
Oh yeah, they'd be good odds because of where they are right now, right? I mean,
we're
talking about a 3-5 football team.
Yes, and it's called the dark horse NFL team. Of any NFL team that is currently under 500, the Vikings have the best opportunity to do something with it.
And Jacoby has a point. If the Panthers would have backdoored and beaten the Chiefs last week, I think the Panthers would be right in on those conversations.
Yeah, but they're not, and they don't play them for 2 more weeks. So it's like, how if the Vikings can beat the Bears and beat the Cowboys, which they should, then now they're 5-5, and now the Vikings are confident in themselves, and they've got a resurgent attitude coming down.
Yeah. So I picked my dark horse a couple of weeks ago with the Miami Dolphins, but I think that the Cardinals and the Rams, who does your gut say comes out of that?
I don't know, man, because I was feeling the Cardinals until you talked me into Cardinals -6.
They beat a good Dolphins team.
Yeah, I know.
Or the Dolphins beat them.
Dolphins beat them, but still, the Dolphins have beat both those teams the last 2 weeks. I think probably the Rams. Probably the Rams over the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals. It might just be a year too early for them.
Yeah, then I'll go the other way. I'll pick the Cardinals or you take the Rams. I think Kyler Murray is the X factor, and he can do things that I don't think Jared Goff has the horses, right? The stable has slowly been emptying since they went to the Super Bowl. You look around, they don't have a lot of guys. Cam Akers hasn't hit their running back that they drafted out of Florida State. Kupp has been there, but they don't have the guys, and they have the philosophy.
But they have the defense.
They have a better defense.
Yeah.
But Goff has made the mistakes on top of him not having maybe the adequate weapons. And Kyler Murray's gone the other way. He has actually attained more horses.
Well, Dom's right. Rams won't make it, but he says Goff is figured out. I agree. Goff is figured out. Kyler Murray is not figured out.
And Goff has forced his name McVay.
We keep trying to put up the same damn comment at the same time and knocking it down. Titans for Life, good comment that Goff's horse is McVay. I agree. A to Z Sports. Let's get to throwing shade to end this Wednesday show. Throwing shade every Wednesday to wrap up the show. But first, real quick, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. Whenever that injury happens in life to yourself or someone you love, make sure you get the best care possible at the Bone and Joint Institute right there in Franklin, Tennessee.
A to Z Sports, it is time for throwing shade. Make sure you comment if you have shade on anybody today or anything. A lot of things have gone down this week. Austin, you said at the beginning of the show, or actually prior to the show, you didn't have shade, but you do have shade now. Is that correct?
I do. I almost had 2 shades, but I had you.
You've already said that. That's fine. We move on. That's old news. It's like the newspaper. It's already been thrown. So what is your shade that you have found over the course of maybe 60 minutes?
So the shade that I was thinking of, because I was over at mybookie.ag, I was looking through odds. I placed a couple bets for the NFL this upcoming weekend. And then I remembered, I was like, damn it. The Texas A&M Tennessee game got postponed, and that ruined my best money-making opportunity of the weekend because I was putting Texas A&M -12. I was going to do that, and then I was waiting because it moved down to A&M -8.5, and I put it down, Zach, for A&M to cover -8.5, but the game got postponed, and my best money-making opportunity of the week is now gone and rescheduled tentatively for December 12th.
Well, yeah, that's big money. I mean,
it was a great opportunity for me this weekend because last week I went 5-0 in college. Huh?
It was free money because I think it would have hit.
And so that's my shade is that I went 5-0 in college football last week, feeling good, tied in our season-long bets against the spread, Zach. But Ronnie says Coastal Carolina didn't cover last week. Oh, Ronnie, but they did cover that first half -10 that was my pick. So, Ronnie, you're wrong. Coastal Carolina did cover what I told you to bet. I actually specifically said, don't take Coastal Carolina minus 18, take the first half minus 10, and they hit it.
Yeah. Jesse, here's some shades. My Bucks, which is not spelled right, but you got auto-corrected, cost him $1,600 because they laid a big fat egg on Monday night. Or Sunday night, excuse me.
Why $1,600 on one game? That's too much. Like, that is you're wading in dangerous waters by putting that.
Hey, you just say it. No, he's not playing with pennies like you are.
I'm not playing with pennies either, but I'm also doing this I'm not also stressing myself out over these things.
Well, you don't know if he's stressed or not. He's just throwing shade at the Bucks for laying an egg because it was gigantic. I mean, their game plan, they ran the ball less than 6 times.
Okay. All right. So Jesse says a 100 to win 1,600. That's different. No, the Bucks cost you $100, not $1,600. And plus, what odds were you getting?
Yeah, what was the bet?
Yeah,
it wasn't straight up.
Right. Where was that? Where were those odds that you were talking about? Was it a parlay? Then that makes more sense. But
if that was the last of your parlay,
then now I'm understanding better because that's more doable. So I if that's the case, then fine.
Okay, so I'm going news story on mine, and this is pretty. It's not funny because somebody lost their life, but
God,
it is an interesting story, and I don't know how this came across my Twitter feed, but I did a double take because it doesn't make any sense. All right, and so it was a must. It was a bad headline that made me click. Because it wasn't organized well, but it was organized so good that I had to click. So here it is. Ex-ballerina arrested for shooting dead estranged husband amid custody battle. So I read that. I said, ex-ballerina arrested for shooting dead estranged husband. So was he dead? Did she shoot a man that was already dead?
That's what it
looked great.
Like. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the lowest point of her life. So I was like, I got to click this. Was it a corpse? Did she shoot the corpse? Because why did she get arrested for that? Can you shoot a corpse? Probably. Is that illegal?
Probably. I would venture to say yes.
But does it hold the same? I don't know. It's a good question.
I don't know.
It was mistyped. And she actually shot it. It's ex-ballerina arrested for killing estranged husband amid custody battle. And Ashley Benefield, who's 28, opened fire on her 58-year-old husband, Doug. But here's the key, and here's the shade. Doug had his back to Ashley. So this woman killed her husband while he was facing away. I think that is the lowest move. Now, she claimed, and I want to read the full story, the ex-ballerina claimed her husband attacked her before she shot him, but detectives found no sign that she had been physically abused or that she was acting in self-defense. So this young lady was lying, and she shot her husband in the back. There is shade. That is shade. Right? What are you going to do now? So it was a custody battle. So you wanted custody of your child. Well, now your dumbass actions have prevented your child from having a father because he's dead and a mother because your ass is going to be locked in prison. Dumb, stupid. Shade on the ex-ballerina. That is my shade.
And so we've got answers to our questions. Nathan says, yes, it is illegal. And Tress says, it's illegal. Big jail time. And that's due to his long history of watching and listening to true crime and watching.
Which is most of our education.
Which is, yeah, I mean, I watched the Criminal Minds thing is still pissing me off because you can't find it. Season 13 and 14 and 15 of Criminal Minds is like, poof, gone. Doesn't exist unless I want to pay $100 for all 3 seasons on Amazon Prime, which I'm not going to do. That was last week's shade, though.
So,
but I'm still fuming at it.
well, so word to the wise, we learn something every day, or at least we try to. Don't shoot somebody in the back.
Sure. Yeah. Great advice there. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Buck will be back tonight, A to Z Sports Primetime. Also, Tighten Up Podcast. Former Titans wide receiver Drew Bennett on the Tighten Up Podcast this week in the A to Z Sports Podcast Network with Austin Huff and Jack Gentry. They always do a great job. We will see you guys tomorrow morning on a Titans game day Thursday. Loaded day tomorrow. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.
Audio.